Hello, and welcome to episode 172 of SideQuest. This week,
We're back.
with the master of the Ultra Hand, Fran Mirabella.
The master of that. Things Briar will say in the intro that you don't know are coming. What's going on? Great to be here, everybody.
That is super exciting to have you here and to be
Heck
back.
yeah.
Yeah.
And before anyone says anything, anyone we bring into any of our shows is not a replacement for Tefty.
Right.
It is a supplication to Tefty.
It's an
From
addition.
yeah. Yeah. So Tefty can easily slip back in here and we're hanging out and having a great time. So
There you go. You never know.
Yeah. Tefty, I actually talked to Tefty today, and he is currently looking at Spotify, trying to figure out why we have two different playlists on Spotify and why one of them updates like a week and a half late. We don't know.
I don't know. And I tried Googling it to like find the proper one and I can't find the one. So I'm glad that you gave the link because I can't freaking find it.
If you go into the Spotify app and you search for DCP, you will find two playlists, and you just look for the one that has the most recent episode, and that's the one.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird problem.
Maybe he needs some help with his RSS feed placement. Let me, it's a tethering joke in the world of Destiny. If y'all remember that.
Yes.
Place your
tether
his
here
Tef
in the
lecture.
In
Tef lecture
the tether
reference.
in the middle,
Wouldn't that
Fran.
be fun?
Yeah. We could do a live Fran lecture.
Do the reverso on the.
That's right.
On the
That'd
Tef
be good.
lecture.
So, Tef, let me, where are you putting these tags exactly?
So much has happened. There's so many huge games out.
Yes.
Can we talk about the biggest game, obviously, that everybody's thinking about, Street Fighter 6?
Oh yeah, there it is. I knew it was not going to be.
Wait,
Zelda.
I got something, Brian. You would have been so happy.
Okay.
With the house I went to.
Okay.
The other weekend.
I saw
with
pictures
the
of
arcades. Yes. So they had Guilty Gear cabinets set up.
What?
But they hooked it up to a laptop to play the Street Fighter 6 demo
on
in the arcade machine. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing. That sounds fun as hell. How did they do that?
I don't know. They're like master hackers of arcade machines.
Arcade wizards.
Do you know there's an underground community for modding arcade cabinets because like rhythm games, you cannot download any new music because as soon as you like leave Japan or you're not a part of like an official arcade, they don't let you update it. So it's a secret underground movement to bring the music back to back to the machines.
Wait, they had the joystick and everything?
I've got like, everything. It's like full on massive arcade machines.
That's glorious. Sometimes it's the only way to play. I tried playing Street Fighter 6 beta. And I was just on, I guess, an Xbox controller. And I realized how quickly, because I haven't played Street Fighter in forever. And I was like, I cannot do this. I was like, I need a joystick and a full setup. And I remember when, like, long time ago when I got really into Street Fighter, like, once you're on the joystick, you feel so good. But the arcade box, I should say. But without it, honestly, I just can't play. I hate even trying.
I just think it's more fun too. Just like whacking that lever around, like doing fireballs. And God, it's just fun. So much of like third-party accessories and like accessories for consoles now is all about like get your KD ratio better and make it you're faster, stronger. You can jump higher. You can turn faster. It's all performance orientated. But back in the day, it was all just like immersion, like make your games more fun, like put this stupid helmet on and now you say fire to make your gun fire instead of like pulling a trigger. Or your hands are hovering in this like 3D space and like every time you hit something out, I think that one was called like the activator or something like that. All sorts of weird stuff back in the day. Anyhow, Street Fighter 6. The beta is fantastic.
Yeah, that comes out when?
June 2nd.
2nd.
Like a day after. I know it's like, is it the same
2 days before
day as
Diablo.
early access of Diablo?
That's 3 days before June 6th, so it's only one more day before then. I mean, maybe they're the same because maybe it's an evening release. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's early release for Diablo. So I'll be playing Diablo.
I can't wait for Diablo 2. There's too many games coming out right now. There's already too many games. My backlog is already like starting to get huge because I haven't played any Jedi Survivor yet.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started. I have some complaints about PC on that, but
yeah, I've heard. Not good.
Freaking tech issues.
The PC in general is kind of not in good shape right now.
No.
Yeah, a lot of bad ports.
Yeah. And Street Fighter 6 is also getting a open beta, so there will be online play in that open beta, so you can test out like kind of like actually fighting. But man, I'm not going to talk too much about it. Check out the new demo though. It is pretty fun, and that single player experience is surprisingly good.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you already checked out the previous beta, that just had a few characters, but now they added more characters in, more modes that you can check out before the game's released. So it's pretty much a full beta now, where before it was kind of limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, the open world stuff's a trip. It's like, it got me thinking of, I don't know if you guys remember Shenmue, but I was I felt like Shenmue finally came full circle. The vision of decades ago, I was like, this game's weird, like opening up like drawers and like inspecting things. I don't know how much you'll get to really do in the open world, but just walking around being level 1 in some open world and talking to a ramen truck, shop driver and potentially fighting them.
Yeah,
is
you
cool.
Can fight anybody you come across.
Yeah,
it seems like you're just like
that's the best part about it.
You son of a bitch, you're wearing purple.
Yeah. If I see Briar Rabbit walking around out there, I'm not
Dragon
gonna. No way.
Ass.
He is definitely. Yeah, you're gonna punch me in the back of the head. Positive.
And there's all sorts of like hidden like characters from like Capcom's past. Like I guess there's like one like superhero guy that I didn't even recognize that was like standing on top of a building, and he was like level 29. He's like really tough to beat. I don't know. It looks really good.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's great that it's I mean, I think it's the right direction, because like everybody, when you think of Street Fighter, of course you just think of versus for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
With ranked play and online, that's all great, but like to actually have like a world to live in and like outfits and all this other stuff. I mean, I definitely think it's the right direction.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
And then all that stuff you get, you customize your character by like playing the single player mode, and then you can actually fight other people they're custom characters, which is kind of fun. It's not like it's not gonna be competitive in a tournament, but just for funsies.
Yeah, it's like NPCs walking around, and the level you are at matters in this as well. So it's RPG like that. So that's also interesting. You see somebody, above your level, like you got to think twice before you like challenge them in a fight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the game looks fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about Street Fighter 6. I'm gonna talk about it a lot though after it comes out, so I'm just warning you.
Sorry, you're clearly excited.
I am so excited.
I'm excited to see it come out, but I'm more excited for Diablo for sure.
Yeah. Should we talk a little bit Tears of the Kingdom?
I think we have to
I think
contractually.
So.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. What's this Zelda?
Zelda.
How big a fan of Breath of the Wild were you guys?
Oh, very big fan.
Very big?
Not very big.
I thought the direction was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's one of those things when I hopped into it, I think it's, games like that, I always use the word wondrous. I just have this feeling of wonder when I'm walking around the world. I saw like a shooting star in Breath of the Wild. I was like, oh, this game is so cool. That was the vibe. I feel it has a really strong vibe like that. And then obviously
dragon, like on the mountain, I thought was really cool.
Like all of these points of interest, and also like what's over the next hill. And so I love that. I guess I love exploring, and I think that is what maybe some people who don't get into Tears of the Kingdom and or Breath of the Wild style as much, they may not. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I've seen some people that are like, it's not for me. But I'm like, just the exploring alone and seeing the vistas, making it there, and like, how do I just climb up that alone is, I love that. But then you add in the temples, the strategy of like your weapons, and now in Tears of the Kingdom, like building both weapons and vehicles, and more than I know, because I'm still early on, no spoilers.
Yeah.
It's great. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
What they've accomplished with the sandbox in that game is really something pretty incredible, because they have all of these like dungeons and puzzles and ways to solve things. So I can only imagine how difficult it is as a designer to create those levels and not have them just be completely broken.
Well, that's the funny thing. It's like you watch people play online. You watch them like do the same puzzle you just did, and they come up with completely different solutions.
They do,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes the solution is obvious. Like in the early stages, there's like here's a platform, and here's 2 hooks, and here's like a rod that goes to the next place you got to go. It's like, okay, like not a lot of creativity needed here, but sometimes like you get all sorts of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about Breath of the Wild real quick because I thought Breath of the Wild, like the first 10 hours of Breath of the Wild, I thought it was like the most amazing game I'd ever seen in my life. But like after that, like the 10 hours after that was like, okay, now I feel like I'm just like doing the same stuff over and over again. And it also feels like I'm doing a lot of busy work. Like I always got to be kind of like, it was stressful to me to always have my weapons breaking, right? It's because I always felt like mid battle,
Hot topic.
I've got to like switch to a new weapon because this one's breaking. Also, I've kind of got to always have my eyes open to find a new weapon. I found that to be like actually relatively stressful in that game.
Yeah.
And also like the main dungeons, what were those, like the mystical beasts? What were they called? Do you remember?
The divine beasts, I think.
The divine beast. Fine.
I didn't find them to be very satisfying. I really like the shrines, but after a while I stopped doing the shrines just because I got like kind of bored of the repetitiveness of kind of like that loop of play. So I never actually finished the game. So I'm hoping that with this one is that I'm hoping that there's more Zelda in it and less like if I want to mainline this game, like I'm hoping that there is. I'm having trouble.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like the golden path was, and I know to me what it sounds like in the last game that it surprised me as well. And going back to Tears of the Kingdom, it reminded me, I was like, this game is a survival RPG on top of the Zelda construct.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what surprised people. They're like, I'm cooking all the time. I have to like, I feel like I'm surviving. I'm like, I just want to go over this hill and I'm freezing. And I'm like, I don't have the clothes for that, man. And then like you were looking at hours. And so they added that in. And I actually came back to Tears of the Kingdom and remembered, I was like, oh man, that actually was stressful. We'll see. But I actually realized how much I like that now. I'm like, they are serious. It's not just like a playful toy box, which I like. It really is like the survival RPG on top of, the action adventure of what Zelda is. So I like all that stuff now. But like Elden Ring, I love, for example, and it's all about survival.
Elden Ring to me was a similar formula, right? It's like that open world, but it was densely packed. It doesn't like, it's not doing the Far Cry thing where there's like dots all over the place that you have to like, like a list of shit to do. Is like in Elden Ring, you can just kind of wander and run into stuff, which reminded me of
where
Zelda.
to go.
Yeah, but it didn't have some of the annoyances. Like it didn't have like the grip where, you'd be halfway up this like huge tower and you're climbing up and then it starts raining. And you're like, fuck, you slide all the way down. And you just like stand there and wait for it to stop raining.
But I think there's other solutions and stuff for that. But that's exactly it. It really pushes back on the player. It is, I think it's, Nintendo's most, complex, difficult game.
Yeah.
Which, might be surprising, but it really, going back to Tears of the Kingdom, same thing. I was like, man, they don't pull any punches on this.
Yeah.
Although it has like lots of checkpoints, and I think that's where like, if you were to compare it to Elden Ring, you're like, man, Zelda can feel like it's pushing back on you quite a bit. It really makes you work for it, but at least tells you, go over here to this yellow dot or this other one. It's like actually has a waypoint. And like if you die, like you start with like whatever, you start over right in a spot nearby. It's got save point. Like it's pretty forgiving on that side of it. It's going to be a very long game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Massive.
I like all that, but I think, it'd be really interesting to hear as you progress, Briar, if the survival nature, if they've done things to either distract on the side with like all the building and you're like, even though I have to do all this other stuff, the building is so fun, I kept playing, or if you're like, I kind of got worn out again.
So far, the building is really fun. Like,
it's so cool.
Just like combining these things. Like I got one minor annoyance about the building is like, why do you have to hold the right button
to rotate
when like you're not using and then use the D-pad when you're not using the D-pad for anything else at that moment?
I I found the rotation to be really weird too. I thought, like, why isn't it a 3D rotation with the stick? Exactly.
Yeah.
Or with both sticks.
Like if you're holding the modifier anyway, so why not just?
Well, you might have to walk around, but
do the sticks. Yeah, I guess.
But I know what you mean. I expected rotating to be a little more. I think it's because you can move while you're rotating. It's part of it, so that the left stick's taken up. I think you can move the camera too, actually, while you're. I think that's why, Brian. They want you to be able to walk, rotate the camera, and if you want to rotate, but it drives me nuts too when I'm just trying to like get it in the right position. The fact I have to like rotate it to me, then get it vertical, then rotate it back feels really awkward. But I mean, I guess you get used to it.
This will probably go away once I don't feel the need to make everything perfect, and B, just get better at it. Right? It's like
it's intuitive.
Yeah.
You know that, I went through the same thing. I was trying to like rotate certain things. I was like, wait, first rotate it here, then rotate vertical or horizontal, and then and your brain like doesn't want to do that initially at all.
Yeah.
At least mine didn't. But yeah, I mean the game so far, I haven't played a ton. I'm playing very slow, but I was really surprised by the building.
It's really impressive.
You're either going to really want to build everything and spend way too much time doing it, or just either you really like building, or you're not going to like that at all. And those people would be interesting. It sounds like nobody on the show feels that way, but that building didn't grab them right. But I think those will be especially the people that are like, it's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I saw the trailer of the building stuff, and I'll say it doesn't get me excited about the game.
Me neither, Watts. It didn't excite me at all. I was like, oh, okay, great. They're putting Fortnite in my Zelda. I don't care about
okay,
this.
I wasn't that bad, bro. It was.
But once I started playing with it, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty fun, and it's kind of cool to like, okay, I'm confronted with this lake. I've got to get across this lake because like that's clearly my next like place to go. How am I going to do that with like kind of what's like lying around? And it's fun to, okay, I'm going to chop down this tree. I'm going to build a boat. I'm going to stick a sail on it. Like, I don't know. It adds to the wonderment, like you said, Fran, of like just kind of exploring this place. I don't know if I'm still in the honeymoon period though. So I don't know if I'm going to like dig on this for a long time.
There's a lot of satisfaction of learning what the things do and feeling that little bell of success, I think. Even if it's that's what's really interesting is you're like, clearly you're like, a child understands how to take this log and with the piece, because the beginning, they're like, give you the obvious stuff. So you're like, I know how to build a boat basically, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But even the most simple boat, you're like, that's really, for whatever reason, you're like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Probably because, and what we, should really applaud Zelda for doing is like, man, although it's not the best looking game in the world from a fidelity standpoint, I mean, it's striking in terms of art design and everything else.
Yeah.
And what they pull off on Switch is just unbelievable. But the physics and what you can do in the world is rarely done in games.
Yeah.
Like you can't even shoot like light sources that often in first person shooters, let alone grab something and move it around and do something with it in a video game that has real impact on what you're doing. There's certain games that specialize in it, but try to think of games where you're like, I wanted to do something with things in the world. It's not as common at all. And then all those the real-time physics and how that plays with your weapons and the food rolling down the hill and everything, all of it has the physics. It's a much shorter way of saying it, are super impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And seeing what people build, and again, the designers of the more dungeon type stuff are able to not have things just be a completely broken mess and have everyone, solve things in different ways is really cool.
Yeah, Brian, did you
Really
say
cool.
shrines in Breath of the Wild they didn't do much for you?
They did it first, right? So I was like 100% in love with them. And I did, I don't know, 15, 20, 25. And then, like, how many of these are there? Like, you just going to keep doing them forever? And
for Tears of the Kingdom, have you played a shrine yet?
Yes.
Or
yeah.
Did that change your view on them at all? Or not yet?
I'm so early in this game that I very much am in the honeymoon period. Everything seems like so much fun. That I don't know what I'm going to end up thinking about this game at all. Like right now I'm having a blast with it. Right now I'm very much in love with it. I just tend to love Zelda in general, so it's like I'm prone to it. but I have bounced off like other 3D Zeldas, like Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess. Just didn't get into it, I played it 20 hours and then just kind of like, moved on to something else and never came back. Like you were saying though about the performance, it is so much better than the first one. It really feels like it's like a much better frame rate. I don't know. It's not, it's not 60, but it's like it's 30, but it's more stable.
Yeah, they got another 5 or 6 in there.
Yeah, I don't know.
5 or 6 frames, which was nice.
If that's the OLED switch kind of showing
it's the I think it's the OLED making it, because it's still like whatever. I don't know if it was 24, 25 frames a lot before. I mean, it was 30 before too, but like it definitely had issues.
Yeah, it definitely
I am not like the new one. I would say there's a lot more. Just the screen pops a lot. They also have added, I believe, AMD FSR.
Yeah.
They were able to put in there, which is doing some like sharpening and trying to scale things up a bit. So making things look better, which is really nice. But because they're pushing physics so hard, like you have like real physics slowdown. And I don't know, you said you only played a little, but you'll be building stuff and it's like and it just like the CPU gets hammered, so your frames are there, but the world is physically slow motion for brief moments of time. And you get used to it because again, it only runs at 30 and it's all kind of slow. But I'm both simultaneously like, holy crap, how do they do this on the calculator CPU that is in Switch?
Right.
Yeah.
And the other side, which is like kind of disappointed, where I'm like, oh, it's freaking slowing down. But you get over it. It's the thing I point out to a lot of people, because people are like, oh, I can't believe it's getting 10s, it slows down, or it's the 30 frames. I'm like, is it impacting your gameplay experience? Like, are you in the middle of a fight that you're having trouble fighting? And like both in terms of building and that, you're like, it can be annoying, but it doesn't break the game that often so far for me at all.
Who's
really
saying I can't believe this is getting tense? I
a
can't
lot
believe
of people came in
A
my
few
chat.
people.
Like, if you give a Zelda game less than a 10, you're gonna get kicked off the internet. Right?
Well,
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'd give it.
The
but
it could be
reasoning.
awful, and you're still gonna give it a 10 because you'll get kicked off the internet.
Well, the reasoning is because it drops down to 20 frames and below. It has
Yes.
slowdown. The options, like there's no brightness settings, there's no like remapping of buttons in the game.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the settings that they have and the brightness is a weird one. And then the performance issues, people are like, well, how can you say that this is like, because a 10 is a perfect game. How can you say that it's a perfect game when there are problems?
And that's what I think that's the problem with. Yeah. But see, that is also the problem with rating scales. Like 10 isn't meant to be perfect. Something that we struggled with at IGN for like a super long time. And why masterful was sort of what we had landed on at one point, because people like would think of it as perfect, and then nobody would ever give it like a 10 because they were fearful. But we knew as reviewers, I mean, I never thought of it as perfect, but it was hard to communicate that level of mastery without saying it has perfect frame rate, for example.
Yeah.
And we also used to dock stuff a lot more for like tech but anyway, as reviews and stuff evolved, I think my point there is that, well, some people also round up, just like IGN does now. They don't do the 9.8 anymore, and so on. So without that, it's hard to say. But I mean, it is a masterful game. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, numbers are silly. Numbered reviews I just don't think they really portray what you mean a lot of the time.
They're supposed to be a reference, but people take it as the review.
Yeah.
Like, I like to see the numbers. I don't want to see the numbers go away, because sometimes I'm like, oh, this game over here, it looks kind of interesting. I'll just like click on a review and be like 5. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Fuck that game.
I actually think like the problem is when you look at them broadly and like Metacritic and user reviews, which are disaster. Also, even like Metacritic, OpenCritics, like they just pool in a bunch of critics.
Yeah.
And so how do you funnel that down to like, wait, these are sort of the really consistent ones that, and then you get bias in that. But my point is, what you're supposed to do is know who is reviewing it. And so if I see Watts gave Wolong, a 9.3, and she gave Wild Hearts a 9.1. So I'm getting into the grid here. But then she gave this game a 7. And you're like, I really like that game that's a 7. Feels like an 8 something to me. And then it gives you a reference point. It does work really well.
You're like,
I mean, maybe it's just me.
Combat.
But to me, it works well when I know who it is, what they gave stuff. It works well in that. When you boil it down to like the internet and reviews,
Yeah.
it's just dishwater.
Yeah.
My thing with reviews is I listen to what negative things they had to say about it, and if those tend to be like no deals for me. So if I hear someone say like, I don't know, the combat has input delay, it feels like it's not snappy, I'll go, okay, well, I'm not playing this game. So that's what's really helpful for me, is I just listen to things that I know I like and are important to me and what they're saying about those specific things, and then
Exactly.
kind of helps.
And again,
If
like
it
that,
doesn't
you know,
have anime boobs, I'm out.
yeah,
That's true from Briar. That's true. If there's no
Exactly.
shame break, Briar's out.
But yeah, like as someone who's reviewed a lot of stuff, like that's what frustrates me. Like I like all of those components of reviews. The problem is the culture of what reviews have become. But my point is, I like my favorite reviews are the ones where I know who's doing it. You get a little more familiar with them, but they give me a lot of detail on what they did and didn't like, and you don't have to agree with them. It's that when you read it, you know why they didn't like it, and you say, "Oh man, I totally disagree with that," but that was a great review.
Yeah.
Because like I love these parts, so I know I'm gonna love that game, even though Briar hates that. He hates
you gotta
weapon
know a
durability. I'm like,
pretty
you know
well
what I mean?
to know that though, right? It's like,
I mean, I think it helps, but at the very least, if they do a great review to tell you why,
Yeah.
that's the point. Is you don't say the slowdown in Zelda sucked. Okay, therefore what? Now you got to add all of that after. It affected my combat. I had trouble completing the puzzles, blah blah. And you're like, then for how many hours, you know, and so on. And you get to the point where it's like, that was a great review because I understood why you loved or hated certain things.
that's my problem with Digital Foundry, is that they'll just
Dang.
yeah, they'll just like tell you like, oh yeah, it runs at 60, 80% of the time, and then it like drops down to like 45, at this section. I'm like, yeah, but like, how often is that? Is it distracting? Do you even notice it? Like,
right. I think they leave a lot of that to you because I don't know if they could do it in a way without it being a full review from them. I mean, it's funny because they sort of do reviews, but then they're not, usually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reviews often they talk about whether they like or don't like the game for a bit and they go into the tech, but they don't really talk about if the tech affected the review. I think not too much, meaning they talk a lot about what the tech does and less so about, oh man, and that's why I don't like Zelda because of the the slowdown.
I like their podcast better than their reviews because they get more into like, oh well, the game was basically unplayable because it would slow down every time you're swinging around town with your spider web, something like that, and they're like, oh okay, now I understand a little bit.
Yeah, that context.
Yeah,
it's helpful.
You want to talk about Zelda anymore? We done with Zelda? I really want to.
You're driving
the
bus, right, Brian?
I really want to play more.
Yeah.
Like, so far I'm loving it, but that's why I kind of wanted to bring up Breath of the Wild as well, because the first 10 hours were magical, and then I never finished.
Interesting that you dropped off.
Yeah.
It could have also been a time and place thing.
That's true.
Maybe you dropped off for other reasons, had other things, both in real life and in other games. Because sometimes that happens when a game is that big.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's success stories where same thing. People dropped out of Elden Ring and they decided to come back later and realize like they loved it and they dropped out for some reason. Like it does happen. But
yeah, I have tried to go back to Breath of the Wild and I've never been able to. It's hard to get back into the middle of an RPG though, or an adventure game or whatever you call Zelda at this point.
Yeah, when and if there's the next Switch or whatever it is that actually runs that thing at 60 frames and without some of its problems, maybe you'll go back to Breath of the Wild on top of we can enjoy Tears of the Kingdom without any of those issues.
Yeah, it'd be
hopefully
nice
next year.
New one.
I'm predicting, April next year, hopefully maybe summer. Cool. We're gonna get that new Mario, get the new Switch, and hopefully at least 60 frames Zelda. I mean, I hope, but they take forever, so who knows?
They do, right? It's like we're still waiting. Well, we finally got Metroid remastered.
Yeah, it only took 20 years, but yeah.
I mean, I kept hearing that it was done for like, I don't know, like many years. It was ready to go.
I think I heard some of that too. That it was done on and off. I mean, they still I don't think it was just sitting there. I think it was in motion and it took a while to like truly finish off, but I don't know.
Do you think we'll get Metroid Prime 4 and Switch 2 at the same time? You think they could be like.
I mean, at this
launch
point, I think
buddies.
there's a really good chance. I mean, there's also a chance that Nintendo is saving that for like its year-end, like Switch release for this
Okay.
year, and just pull it out of its hat this summer. But like all, I mean, yeah, I don't know with them. Like, I feel like they feel like they don't need to wait to launch a new system because several of their systems they've just done like co-launches. So let's say they do Metroid Prime 4 and and then there's a better looking version next summer, like with a new system. I think they almost don't care. Plus, I think Mario is I'm predicting would be the launch system, launch the next system because we're on that path. I don't think they're gonna just suddenly release a sequel to Odyssey or whatever at the end of this year and not launch a new system, right? Like that's the perfect combo.
I love the Switch so much. I'm somewhat scared of the Switch 2 or whatever the follow up to the Switch is. I'm afraid that Nintendo will try and we got to be quirky and we got to do something like really different here. All I want is just a more powerful Switch because I just love it so much. Like I love the form factor. I love that the games are on cartridges. I love that there's so many like just kind of weird. Like I recently got Espeluna 2. Which is a cave shooter that came out, I don't know, in like 2004 or something. And it got a physical release on the Switch, which is amazing. I don't know. I just really like the Switch. And I don't want them to fuck it up like Wii U it,
Well, I think that, the Switch was the fix to Wii U. So, yeah, I think thankfully we won't regress there. But
yeah.
Just more powerful. I mean, honestly, the next system, more powerful hardware that can handle like a DLSS. DLSS 3 is amazing, right? I don't know if they can pack that into a Switch at cost, but like frame generation, right? Or just like the next scale, whatever good version of scaling from some company would be killer, right? Because you could have a higher quality screen and then hopefully really start hitting those 60 frames at true 1080p all the time. I don't know if we'll see beyond that truly, but maybe the on your TV it can scale up. It'll do what PlayStation does, where you're getting like a
4K signal.
Yeah, 1260p, but it's on a 4K output.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd be okay with that. What else do we want to talk about? And we got a game they've been playing? What?
Yes. I have a game I've been playing. It's called After Image. I have
I saw you
14
posting.
hours in this game. I have 14 hours. I'm nowhere near the end.
Are you playing on is this Steam Deck or something, or what is it?
I've been playing on Steam Deck, yeah.
Which,
by the way, it runs beautifully. Solid 60, never drops. It loads quickly. Combat feels great. It's super snappy. It's incredible on Steam Deck.
Oh,
what's like the
nice.
What's the core? Wait, what's it called? After
Image. It's a Metroidvania. It's a really good Metroidvania. It's what you would expect in a Metroidvania, where you progress, you get abilities, then you can go back to. But when you do backtrack in this game, when you get a new ability, you unlock like massive new areas. So it really makes you feel good about going back and exploring, because there's going to be like a bunch of stuff back there.
Oh, this looks really good.
It's hand drawn. It's a hand drawn, like, beautiful game. There's so many different weapon types, skill trees. All of the combat is great. The exploration has been great, and the visuals are really nice.
It's kind of a fantasy RPG style, sort of.
Yeah, it's in a fantasy world.
I like it.
Yeah, this looks pretty sick. $25.
It's $25, and like I decided, because I was playing on my Steam Deck, because I couldn't really be on my computer at that point, and I was like, what do I want to play? And then I saw a friend say that they are 15 hours in with no end in sight, and they love it, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll try that one.
Right.
And I'm 14 hours in, and for sure nowhere near the end. So you are getting a big worth for your money.
This looks big.
Game.
Yeah, I was checking a few Steam reviews. There's a lot of like plus 40 or a handful of plus 40, even a few plus 70 reviews that are recommending
hours. It. Yeah, it's
so you're in
crazy.
for it.
That suddenly got intimidating.
Yeah.
It's a big game.
Stick to Tears of the Kingdom, Brian.
Having it on the Steam Deck is great, because it's just like, play for a couple hours, and then you can just like chip away at it and play a bit each day, and it's been a blast. I think it's a really well made game.
Watts, as a Steam Deck player, have you seen the ROG Ally at all? Does that
I have
interest
seen
you?
it. Yes. Doesn't really interest me because I have a
No?
Steam Deck,
'Cause
so
you're
I
good.
don't really see a point in getting another
It's more
thing.
powerful though.
But
I mean, we'll see. Like I mean, it is some things on paper, but I don't know. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if it's I think I saw some articles about pound for pound, whether or not it will sort of have like, everything from the speed of the UI to, that all matters.
And it runs Windows, not Steam OS.
Yes,
Wah,
that's a big change.
not great.
Yeah, but some people want that because then that's where Game
that's true.
Pass comes in, right?
Make that easier.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the big thing is something like Game Pass and other services, and it all will seemingly work through Windows. So
Yeah.
but
And it doesn't have those touch pads on it, which makes the whole layout of the controller, I think, not only more compact, but more. It looks more ergonomic than the Steam Deck controller is great, or the sides are great, but I find that those pads, those square pads, just kind of are in the way, and I never use them.
yeah, I haven't used Steam Deck, so I have no good impressions.
It feels great. Like I can comfortably play on Steam Deck for like 6 hours, and I feel like no problems. Whereas with I haven't had a single other handheld that's been like that. So
It's plugged in for that, right? Because it would only.
well, so the thing with this game, After Image, it also does not completely destroy the battery. I've played for like 5-6 hours and not needed to charge it. Yeah,
Dang.
which I was like,
that is surprising.
what are they doing? Because it's normally like 2 hours, and I'm plugging it in.
And you don't have to do the gym because you just did ab day or you just did bicep day. Hold that thing up.
Both. Crunching while you play.
Yeah. I'm definitely.
Yeah, that's cool.
This.
Yeah,
I was just watching Blasphemous 2 gameplay footage, and I was like making me Jones for like a good Metroidvania, and seeing this is right up my alley. I like this.
Yeah, After Image, I'd only seen a little bit, but this is the first time I really looked at it, Watts. So it looks pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really, really well done game. Everything about it. There's really nothing that I can be like, yeah, this is terrible.
Yeah. Seems dope.
It's a good. I did want to talk to you guys about so we don't really know anything about it yet, so it'll be a very short conversation, but Private Division coupling up with Game Freak to make a completely new game for what Game Freak is used to. Game Freak make all the Pokemon games.
Oh, interesting. What's Private Division make?
Private Division is a publisher.
Okay. So this won't be a Nintendo.
Nope.
Yeah,
nope.
It's going to be on multi-console, right? So yeah, big change there as well. It's like using more powerful hardware.
Project Bloom, and it's going to be an action-adventure IP. And they shared an image, and the image alone made me go, yes, give it to me immediately. And it's just like this forest, and there's this character here with some really cool armor, and like just the way it looks, just I want to explore that world. I want to know what it's about. So
yeah.
The only thing we know is that it's different to what they've usually made, and it's a long ways out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they're partnering, with a new company and trying to do something new, even though, it had been brought up like, well, they're not like a huge team, and they if you look at their history, it's like pretty much all the Pokemon, and then some other, a lot of like cartoony, RPG games that you could visualize pretty much, like from N64 to where we ended up with Pokemon Arceus. Is that how you pronounce that? By the way, I don't play Pokemon, but yeah, they to be honest, right? They don't look great. They're always a little like janky, but they're amazing, in terms of like if you love Pokemon and like what they've done with Pokemon gameplay. So to try something new, I'm definitely excited. But I feel the same way. You're like, ooh, like a next gen project from the studio that made Pokemon, and then the visual they give you feels like I don't know if it was like a little more anime Ghost of Tsushima.
I think in the article they actually do mention samurai in there, so a samurai action RPG.
Yeah, it looks cool. It looks cool.
I saw the image and I was like, looks great.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's gonna be like 2026.
We'll clip this, for exactly like 3 or 4 years from now at best, probably. But it might be on the PlayStation 6 for all we know. I don't know.
It's funny. Logically, I know that Game Freak is not Nintendo. Like they're not part of Nintendo, but they're just so closely tied to with Pokemon and Nintendo.
They are
in my head that it's like, oh, they're gonna be
like
working
all
on.
I've done.
Yeah, I mean they're very closely partnered. I would have done the same thing. I'd be like, wait, aren't they like a second party to Nintendo at this point? I'm like, no, I guess they can make stuff for other people. It gets confusing sometimes when a publisher's been so exclusive. But yeah, that one's really exciting. Project Bloom, 4 years from now.
Fran, are you gonna be playing the Forspoken DLC?
Oh heck yeah! That's a great reminder.
May 26th.
That is a great reminder. Did you watch the trailer at all?
I did.
Or Brian?
Yeah, in Tanto we trust.
I don't know if you ever cared anyway about Forspoken before it came out, because obviously I know it got middling reviews, but the trailer is like totally awesome.
Really?
And so like my reaction to it was, I was like, why? Like the problem with Forspoken, I know we don't have that much long left on the show, so I'll keep it short. A lot of problems, but the core of the gameplay, once you unlock everything, and there's like the world is massive, it's unreal. But when they take you through the main game of Forspoken, you don't see any of it. You don't get hardly any of your powers until the end. You don't really get into a lot of good fights with those different powers. It's really weird. And then it drops you into this world. It definitely has an identity problem. I don't think knew what it wanted to be. They seem like maybe they were even arguing about, right, what does it need to be? And we got the result of that, which is a game that is has self-conflict. But anyway, once you get to the end, it's just like an incredible amount of spells, and that's a lot of fun. The parkour was fun. I wouldn't rate this game super highly, but I did enjoy those parts of it. So long story short, the trailer in Tanto We Trust looks like really dope. It's like all these real-time magic casting particle effects. If you haven't played the game, there's I think, what is there, 4 types of magic? Red, blue, green, purple. Yeah, right now there's 4, and within each of those 4, there's a wheel that you hold down the trigger, shift it, and select one of those 12 spells on cooldown or something. It might be 9 spells, or I forget. But if you literally you can combo every one of those or their own cooldown. Completely nuts. And it's all real-time particle effects. So yeah, the fights could absolutely be better, but when you do get into some cool fights, casting magic, I was just super excited to do the magic casting in real time. Like, if you watch some of it, it's pretty sick. Like, you cast like a huge wave around enemies, a tidal wave, and you pull them in together, and then you like hit them with like this giant long flame sword. Then you can cast like a super that's electricity like all over. I mean, right? It makes it sound cool. And again, the fights definitely, could have used more time in the end. You sort of eventually fight like a wave of mutant alligators, and that's where it gets into some trouble. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing if they focus on just that, because all the problems walking around these boring environments in Forspoken in the beginning, like, hopefully it just focuses on the good stuff at the end. But yeah, hopefully. Clearly excited to check it out.
Did you guys play the Dead Cells DLC, the Castlevania DLC?
I didn't. No, I want to.
It's
and then
so
I was
good.
like, wait, it's out? And then I forgot about it again.
It's so fun. I had to, oddly, I like lost my digital copy of Dead Cells. Like, I know I played Dead Cells, but I can't figure out like on what platform.
Which platform you bought it on?
Yeah.
Right.
Switch?
I kept booting stuff up and be like, look for Dead Cells. It's not here. It's not here. It's not on my PlayStation. It's not on my Xbox. It's not on my PC. Where the heck is
Switch?
It was on my Switch, but I just couldn't find it because their list system is a little bit weird. Like, if you go back, I think what happened was I looked at like games that were installed, not games that were in my library.
Oh, and that happens on PlayStation too. I go through the same thing. Yeah, you're right. If you sort by installed versus library, it gets very confusing.
So then I was like, okay, so I'll just buy another copy. It's not that expensive a game. I think it's like $20, and you get like some DLC with it. So I did that. Well, I went online and to get the digital version. I was like, well, how much is it on Amazon?
It's only $10.
There you go.
Return to Castlevania, right?
Yeah, I went and I got like a hard copy from Amazon. I think that was $20. It came it was like the action game of the year edition. It came with some DLC. There's other DLC you can buy. So I just bought the rest of the DLC, including the Castlevania. The Castlevania stuff is so good. If you're a fan of, I think especially like the pre, like
the Castlevania 2 era, are you talking about?
Castlevania, I think that's a good era. Castlevania, like the NES stuff, the Super Nintendo stuff, even the PlayStation stuff. Like it is just
Symphony of the Night.
right there. Yeah, Symphony of the Night is big in this one.
Woo.
Like the graphics are definitely Dead Cells, but also like just spot on. Like they really get the characters right for Castlevania. The monsters just are perfect. All the weapons feel super Castlevania. Like it just feels, it's just a really cool fusion between those two games. It makes me really want another Castlevania. There was rumors that Konami was going to be showing off something with Castlevania at, quote unquote E3 that got canceled after they said that. So I don't know if that's real or not.
Continues. Yeah, there was rumors about Metal Gear Solid 3 and maybe Castlevania's out there somewhere. I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But it was just nice to get new content for Castlevania, especially the classic Castlevania that like are kind of my favorite ones. Like once you get into like the DS Castlevanias, like I've kind of checked out. Like for me to play like a 40-hour game on a DS is a lot to ask,
Yeah, at this point.
Yes.
But like the PlayStation stuff, the Super Nintendo stuff, all of that older stuff, I really enjoy. And it was nice to see all the references. It was nice to see the weapons, the characters, and it plays awesome like Dead Cells does.
Yeah,
it's a good reminder. Awesome. I wanted to check it out. I just no time.
So many games.
You can also get to it in like 5 minutes. Like you
that's good.
You can run right to like the the Castlevania spot, and like you can spend all the time you want in there grinding for like all the best stuff, or you can just check out like the main story of it because there is some story in there, and get most of that done in a few hours.
Oh, that's good to know. That's right, because you can't buy it as it's not a standalone. It is part of Dead Cells. It's an expansion, so you got to have both. So it's not. It's only $10 if you already own Dead Cells.
Right.
Otherwise, there's like you said, a couple packs between $20 to $30.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
But it literally is minutes away, Briar. Like for real, or are you like 30 minutes away?
No, you can get there right away.
Okay.
Because I started with a new save, and I was able to get there within a few minutes with a brand new save. Like I didn't have like all the stuff that I collected throughout.
Good.
If you're at all a fan of Castlevania, it's well worth checking out.
Speaking of expansion DLC stuff, did anybody touch anything else? Like, I mean, Watts, I know you played Cult of Lamb. I don't know if that made the last show, but like Horizon, I don't think any of us played that.
I didn't like Horizon 2 at all.
Really? You didn't like it?
I've been waiting to play it. Not there yet.
I did. I really didn't. I loved the first one so much, and the second one, I didn't find it to be beautiful. I found it to be like weird looking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, why are these people dressed so ridiculously? This is not functional, or like, would it be correct? Like, I don't know.
You don't like the mechanics of their outfits, okay?
I didn't like that. Like the whole color palette was so like bright. Like. Why does everybody have like fresh paint and fresh dye for all of their clothing and household?
The world was more unspoiled, or is. I mean, I guess it's the future, is it? I don't know why everything looks so good. I love it.
Also, why is the Golden Gate Bridge still up? It's like 20,000 years in the future.
They built it real good, I guess.
I don't know about that. They have to paint that thing like they're always painting it, right? To keep it from rusting.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to last.
Cult of the Lamb DLC.
Yeah, talk about Cult of the Lamb.
Cult of the Lamb DLC is incredible.
Banger.
They've added like so much content to it. Like you can log some serious hours playing the new stuff. There's new bosses or like modified bosses for like every single door that you go through, so every area. There's new like end game stuff. They've also today actually launched their new stuff that they're adding to the Twitch integration. So now if someone is watching your stream and they're in your game, they can write a message to send you in game, and their little character walks up going, hello,
Really?
And then
That's pretty
they have a
awesome.
message for you, and there's voting, so you can have like viewers vote on who gets sacrificed, so that could be really fun.
Oh, that's fun.
There's more help or hinder options available for them to mess with you or help you. Yeah, they've added a ton of content in there, not just with the extension, but yeah, with the DLC, the free DLC.
And it's free. I was gonna say it's all free,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
it's
Oh,
free.
that was free. I didn't even realize.
It's free.
It's free DLC. Yeah, there's a ton of content in there, many hours, and it's hard. Like the stuff they've added
It looked
it's
difficult.
tough.
Yeah.
And every weapon has a new heavy attack. So before in Cult of the Lamb, there was no heavy attack. They all have heavy attacks. There's new spells. There's new weapons. Weapons do different stuff.
That makes me happy to
Oh,
hear because I think
a
that was
lot.
my only complaint was that game was I found the combat to be kind of boring. So to hear that
Mm-hmm.
they're opening up more options to the combat, maybe that'll help improve that situation.
Yeah, there's even a whole new system for combat that is it's kind of like the curses that you have, where you like the magic that you can do. There's also another kind of magic that you can do, but it's on a longer cooldown and it's more impactful. So they've added that as well. So they've really deepened the combat quite a bit.
That's good.
And they've also added to, the stuff that you can build
Yeah.
in your cult.
Briar, any outfit problems on the lambs or
No, this
color?
This
problem?
game's got a vibe that I just dig 100%. Like everything. I could spend
It's awesome.
hours and hours in that village, just like customizing stuff, sacrificing my lambs, like all that stuff.
Yep.
I just found to be so fun and so charming. I can't remember what company was selling it, but some company that has a bad reputation was selling like a physical edition of this game, and even though I already own the game, I wanted the physical edition just to have on my shelf because I like the vibe of this game so much.
Yeah, the art is really good.
Yeah.
Art and
God,
the
I love
music.
that game.
It's really good.
It was surprisingly just across the board, just very polished. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
check it out if you got time.
DLC is great.
Fran, you got anything else you want to?
No, I played tons of Destiny, which is a
Yep.
different show that we do, DCP Live,
Yeah,
as
we
you
got our own show for
hopefully know. But tons of Destiny leading up to the end of this season, and then that didn't leave much time for stuff, so I think it was mostly just... Oh, I did play Redfall, if you got any questions.
You did play, that's right.
Yeah.
Redfall, the whole fallout
point.
from
That
that.
was what was in
Phil
between.
Spencer
Sorry
going
to
on
hear
an
that.
interview and like
Oh my
being
God, that
very
Phil
open.
Spencer. Wow, we got to talk about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, okay. Redfall.
That was it is the hottest thing to have happened since the last show,
It is
probably.
pretty
Yeah,
hot.
100%.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
So, you want to like break down the timeline? You played Redfall. It was terrible, I assume.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it wasn't, no, look, it was not... I didn't think it was terrible, and I think that's the discussion to have. But it definitely had a lot of problems, and I think was flat and uninteresting a lot of the time until towards the end of the game, which I can circle back to. But to set things up, right, Microsoft exclusive, I think it starts there with their purchase of Bethesda and then them owning Arcane Austin and so on. People are like, ooh, the next big Xbox exclusive, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Even though that it's coming to Game Pass and whatnot. And then comes the news that, only 30 frames a second for now, patch later.
After
it is
they
still
had
coming out.
Said 60.
Yeah, on Xbox Series X, the most powerful console in the world. The same
They
for
had to
Series
go
S.
and put little stickers on every physical copy because on the back it says 60 frames per second.
Oh my
And
God.
if they didn't do that, they'd get in trouble. Yeah,
I didn't
so
know
every
that.
sticker says
I didn't
60
either.
FPS mode coming
Now
later.
I want to buy a copy.
Right, so like that's... I think the point there is like writing on the wall is like, why are you releasing this right now? And then like, you're gonna patch it late. Like, another long discussion of why do we keep running into this situation? Like, Star Wars Jedi is a crap PC port, at least for me.
Yeah.
I know many others, like, it is not a good PC port. Why is it out at all? Why am I buying something that like does not perform? And well, we're gonna fix it later. That doesn't... It's already ruined the beginning. So I gotta wait. I stopped playing it because I'm like, it is souring my experience because I really love the game. But anyway, back to Redfall. So then, the game came out, started getting a lot of like middling and bad reviews, a lot of, 4s, 5s, 6s. And then Phil Spencer did an interview and had to just kind of take the brunt of it.
Yes.
And he looked very sad. And I think rightly so. He
Weird
was bummed.
stuff in that interview, though, didn't he?
You think so?
I do. I mean, like he talked a lot about like that Microsoft didn't integrate with the team fast enough, as if that would have fixed everything. But he also talked about how like they had what's it called, a mock review? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, mock reviews. Yeah,
and it tested a lot higher, so they were kind
he
of
said
surprised.
double digits higher.
Double digits higher.
Whatever that meant, whether it was a 60 something
10 points or more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. But that's why it was a little vague whether you meant it was like a 65 or a 75. And both of those numbers, I think, it could have even been higher. But because he didn't say what it got, I think everybody walked away like, well, wait, I mean, what, a 60 something and you were happy with it?
Yeah,
you know?
Good point. But I don't know.
They said they were surprised, though.
They are
you're right.
Surprised them, which is surprising to me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Same.
To me, this guy always is saying the right thing. You know what I mean? Like he always, like ever since he took over control of the Xbox brand, like he's always been saying the same thing. And yet I still never play any video games on my Xbox.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's been a long time now. A long time. And the Game Pass is an awesome service that doesn't have a lot of games that I want to play, so I eventually just canceled it. It's like, well, this is like...
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, a lot of people don't know about mock reviews. This is common in every major game you play. Mock review companies tend to be the ones they handle. Like, it's gotten to the point where there's several companies, some ex-IGN folks I know work at one of those companies, for example. I don't know if they were involved in Redfall at all. They could have been. But these are very often, either led by or people who've they've done reviews. Mock reviews are not just like a 500-word, like, well, what if, Destructoid reviewed it? What would it look like? It's literally meant to address that, but also, like, as a reviewer, it's like a huge guide. And they usually they're doing lots of these along the way. So it's like it's basically like, it's like a Bible as you go along, the reviewer's guide to the reviewers. Of like what's going to happen when you release it. So it's not just right. Nobody would get that from hearing that from Phil, but it's very likely this has been going on for a while and they've addressed some of the things that kept coming up but we don't know. I think the problem is Phil, to his credit, is like he wanted to be really candid and real with people. And honestly, that's what I love about him.
Yeah.
But because it was in this tight 40-minute interview, and also he's not going to tell you what it got for the mock review score, and he's not going to tell you why they really had to release it and they couldn't delay it. Like he didn't say, and that's what I wanted, where he's like, we wanted to move them on to their next game. Like we thought Redfall was at the point that it needed to be, and we are going to patch a few things. We were surprised, but like they have this awesome next new project we can't talk about. We wanted to get him on it. Like because he couldn't say whatever it was. It also could have been missing revenue goals. It could be had to ship for who knows. Maybe Bethesda also, there was talk of like, well, they made the decision and they didn't want to step on their toes. And anyway, it just left him in a really tough spot of like, we screwed up.
Yeah.
But with no answers, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
really.
Everybody lost confidence.
It's bad. And I'm disappointed and I'm sad that we released it like this. And that was really what he was saying. And
so the only thing I would add to that, and then done with my Redfall rant, is that it got tons of like negativity around it, as did Forspoken, for example.
Yeah.
And the thing with Redfall is like it's not like that confusing or bumbling of a product. It definitely starts off as feeling that way. It was like flat gunplay, like it kind of wanted to be Borderlands meets Back 4 Blood or Left 4 Dead. That's what I felt. And like you'd pick up guns, you're like, they're okay. And then you'd fight enemies, and you're like, they don't really. There's just a couple enemies in this big, like foggy, dreary town, and like there wasn't a lot going on. But what I'd say is, unfortunately, kind of like Forspoken, you get 12, 15 hours in or whatever, and then you're like, oh, okay, well now I have like 6 enemy types coming at me at once. My guns are decent, and like is okay towards the end. The bosses were not well designed though. Again, like kind of just not good. They were like Destiny bosses without all of the flair and experience of like what makes the combat really interesting, right? But it was like a boss in the center of a room with like a rotating shield around it, right? And it had a couple other components. But like it just didn't feel great. But my point there is that I think some people walk away really disappointed and say that game was terrible. But I don't know if I put on my reviewer hat, I look like it's definitely, I think it's a 5 to 6 kind of game. But for some, definitely a 6 to 7. And I had a couple people that played with me on stream, and they're like, I really like the game. It was chill, and you forget that perspective. They're like, I just like the vibe of the town's really neat.
Vibe of the town is cool.
So some people are okay with it, and so it gets better towards the end. But I have a lot of complaints about games these days that drag me through a mediocre experience for 10, 15, 20 hours. And then, like Gotham Knights was another example. I got to the end. I was like, okay, now that I have everything, I'm like, I kind of want to play this for a little bit. And I want to use these different classes, right? I want to play as, Robin, and I want to play as, but like the game's over. And I'm like, you already dragged me through it. I'm like, I'm done. And Redfall's the same. I was like, I would like to try the other characters, but I'm just like done. And there's also nothing in the game that makes that easy. You have to start over and level up each character again. I'm like, nah, I'm done.
The intro to that game really got me like, what is happening? Because it was not a very good intro to the story to set the scene of like what's going on and what the vibe is. Because there's no cutscenes in the game, which also took people by surprise because the marketing was like this really beautiful looking animated characters, and that's why I think a lot of us got excited about it, because we're like, these characters look really cool and this looks great. And then none of that was in the game, and then just the emptiness is kind of what got me to go, I don't think I'm gonna
unfinished.
try it. It does, it seems unfinished.
And that was a really good point. The marketing misled people is another problem, but like I forgot about that. You see all these like really highly slick animated characters, and you're like, this looks cool. And then the cutscenes are still frame, like 3D mixed 2D background. It's like a bunch of people in a room, like in a pose of a comic strip, and the camera pans. And then you do have like dialogue and stuff, but it's like they're just not doing anything. And that's how the story gets driven along.
That's how,
Oh, but hey, Bob, Eris is in it. Morla, our friend Morla's in the game. So Deborah Wilson.
And her voice is incredible, of course.
All the big Destiny voices. You can find them in Redfall if you want.
I think the thing was especially that Arcane are so well known for their storytelling with the environmental storytelling, and how well crafted their levels are. So I heard a lot of Arcane fans just being like, you're missing like the thing that I like that you do well. You're missing that part that made me a huge Arcane fan.
Yeah, but like people deserve to be able to strike out and try something else too, right? Like, just
you
because
can still have awesome environmental storytelling and like good level design.
Yeah, but just because you're good at like making this specific kind of, what do you call it, immersive shooters, doesn't mean like every game you ever make has to be an immersive shooter.
Well, no, I think you can have like really good environmental storytelling. Like Elden Ring has incredible environmental storytelling, and Dark Souls and incredible level design. You don't have to drop that to make a whole new type of game. This was just like very empty, and I just felt like it was.
From the outside looking in, it looked like it was an unfinished game that got released because
it did.
Maybe they had lost all hope, and they're just like, get the fuck out.
That is my theory, and it's hard for us to understand the outside because again, the true stories of like the why, like we may not know without more insider leaks and or years from now where they can discuss it and like say, oh, well, here's what happened. But I do believe they gave him another year. It just still, for whatever reason, was a struggle. Maybe there was vision issues, but maybe people left the team. That like it is surprising. They were bringing up stuff like, like they have internal teams of people at Microsoft that use Unreal. Like, why wasn't the AI better? Like, how could you not get together with another company that has helped you solve that and so on? But I think they gave him a year and it still had problems, and that's why like releasing the patch on top of the 30 frame problem tells me that they probably needed like a whole nother year to just really clean it up.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're way over budget at this point, and we don't see it.
Right.
So
we're
you just
got
to
release
it.
Good, right? Or bad money after bad. How's that say?
Like that's
money after bad?
Something like that. And I think what happened was they had to release it because it was kind of bleeding budget at that point, even though obviously Microsoft has a lot of money.
Yeah, but if there's no hope to ever make the money back.
But I think with the mock reviews, they thought, okay, It's at
It's in
a
a good
point
enough
where we'll
spot.
just maybe it was a break even, right? We don't know.
Right.
And
But
we just want to move you on to the next thing.
like, even if the box
But
reviews come back as a 6 or a 60 or a
Well, we don't-
70, and they're like, okay, we projected this game's going to make $2 million. We've already spent $2 million on it, so we're never going to make a profit on it anyway. So let's just get it out.
yeah. But yeah, at the end of all this though, the real problem that they, I think, now fully realize is it wasn't that it was just Redfall, that was just another Bethesda product that was in their huge catalog of all these upcoming games that define what Xbox is.
Right.
It was yet another exclusive Xbox defining experience that released with this banging marketing that was a huge disappointment across the board.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, you could have like this house with all this awesome stuff, and it's like, you know, I don't know what the best analogy here is, but it's like your door like is broken every time I try to get in the house. So it's like I can't even get through the front door without this bad experience, you know. And so the point is, it was like staring everybody in the face. And so now we're all waiting for the showcase at E3 or faux E3. You've got to show us real gameplay that looks super slick, and Starfield especially. Man, it can't be one. It's gonna be though, but it can't be one of these 42 frame a second kind of janky.
Come on,
No,
Bethesda, but it's gonna be.
Terrible frame rate.
I mean,
But everybody at least is gonna love it though.
special.
It is. That's the one thing that from Skyrim to Fallout 76 and so on, somehow, because of the Bethesda magic on that one, it's so janky. But they're like, people still inevitably will love it because it's so ambitious. So I think they'll skate by on that one.
But they are buggy.
Yeah, it's not going to be the most powerful, you know, looking game out there on console, but we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe, but
the other thing
I doubt it.
Phil said that I thought was interesting was that 11 out of 10 Starfield isn't gonna tear anybody away from the PlayStation 5 to buy an Xbox Series X. I was like, wow. Do they realize that they've lost this generation? Because he also said the last generation was the worst possible generation to lose because that's when everybody kind of built up a digital library.
Yeah, so you're tied.
So you're kind of like consumers now feel like they're locked into like an ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to carry your library over.
Man, I bought a PS5 because I wanted to play Final Fantasy and I want to play all these other games that I won't be able to play on the PC at launch or ever. And those are games that I really, really, really like. Stellar Blade is a PlayStation exclusive, so that is why I buy a PlayStation. When I'm looking at which one I'm going to buy, it's like, well, this one has a bunch of exclusives that I really like that I'm not going to be able to play anywhere else.
Xbox has that. It's just that they've all just stumbled out of the gates. Like even Halo, like got delayed a year, and still, I mean, a lot of people really like that game. I thought that single player campaign was kind of boring. Like, I mean, it didn't have those big Halo moments that I really come to Halo for, right? It was just kind of like,
because it did have some of those, but then they mixed in all the open world stuff.
Yeah, like, and I'm not
dragged out.
Yeah,
I liked Halo Infinite, but it was the open world stuff that felt crammed in, and dragged out. So I was like, yeah, I'm just ready to move on to those big Halo moments. And actually, the sound design and some of those moments I thought were absolutely there. It's a slick looking, you know, Halo type experience when you're in those, you know, tunnels, so to speak. But as soon as you go to the open world, you're kind of like, huh, like, what do you want me to do? Like, it's not co-op, you know, it wasn't then. And
I can't remember the last big Xbox release. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush, is that what the
Hi-Fi Rush? Yeah.
That was big, but that was like kind of like a surprise.
That's like
it's
like a critical indie hit, though. You know, it's
yeah.
But like
Halo was big.
It was big, yeah.
But it wasn't like a 9.5. I mean, I think that's the problem that you're identifying, all the fans are identifying. They really want their God of War Ragnarok. They want their Zelda.
Yeah.
That's what's missing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's an IP, right? It's an IP that is very successful, that you're going to have 2, 3, 4 games in this IP, and people want to make sure that they have the console to play that.
Watts just said like why she buys PlayStation 5. Right. Like she could list off a bunch of exclusive IPs of why she buys it, and like it's hard for a lot of people to do that on Xbox.
Yeah, they haven't had that really since the Xbox 360, right? It's like Gears of War, Halo, all their IPs were hitting on.
Yeah.
on
But
8 cylinders. Plus, they had Call of Duty. They have everything.
yep. So
They
that,
did,
but
yeah.
therein again is the problem that Phil was super candid, and I'm sure, God, the problem is there's no way around it, but like he was really candid and upfront with people, and now you're gonna get penalized for it. Like they're gonna be, I think, very hesitant in the future because they probably felt the same thing. People were confused that when he said we can't out console PlayStation and Nintendo. That's what he said. It was the worst race to lose. So, but he wasn't able to explain. He's like, yeah, everybody has digital libraries, so they're already invested in these things. He wasn't able to expand on that. But the reason that he said you can't out console them, he's saying like it is statistically impossible, everybody, to outsell, which he's right. There is no world in which you are at a point where PlayStation is outselling Xbox like 2-1, and they're way ahead already. The Switch is like 100 million or so. It's like it's insane. Right? There is literally no way you could have, even if GTA 6 was exclusive, let's say, so, okay, you sell 30 million consoles, you're still not going to catch up because people don't buy a console for just that one game. And that's what he was.
It's got to be multiple.
What he was trying to say is like, it's just statistically not going to happen, but we have all these incredible games that are exclusive to our ecosystem. So we want to see you on the cloud and we want to see you on the pass. And also, of course, the console. But all those things together is what we're focused on. And the next generation is what we also have to get right. And he wasn't able to talk about that either. But where I'm leading with this is they're building a huge catalog of, I'm excited for Avowed. I've been super excited. He brought that one up. And I think we're going to see gameplay based on, it's from the original creators like Fallout New Vegas, and then Grounded and Outer Wilds, is it? All that stuff. Those guys are amazing. But man, they got Perfect Dark Zero. They got Contraband from the makers of what is it? Just Cause. And they've got Indiana Jones as part of Bethesda, right? Is that going to be exclusive? I don't know. But they actually have a lot out there. So anyway,
they do. Yeah.
See what the showcase has, but he couldn't tell you about that.
Yeah.
Gotta wait for that showcase.
I'll pretty much buy anything with the Indiana Jones movie or Indiana Jones tie-in except for the Crystal Skulls.
Right. What about Crystal Skull vodka?
I do like Dan Aykroyd.
That was Dan Aykroyd's vodka, right? Yeah.
I'm excited. He also did sign up to say that we will get a definitive answer of frame rate for Starfield ahead of launch. Yeah. So we will know what. But the thing is, though, if they say it's 60 and it's 62% of the time, it's not lying. It's not lying. It's targeting 60.
It seems like a really good time to invest in a TV that has variable rate refresh. You know what I'm saying? I've been getting a lot of use out of that feature.
Yeah.
I hope they do tell us what the game realistically is running at, and not just we're targeting 60. It's going to be 60, because that doesn't tell me much. You can target 60 and it be
so he said specifically they're gonna talk about the frame rate of Starfield.
They asked him to commit to, will we know what it is, or I forget what the exacts were, but what I think he ultimately was saying is we're not gonna tell you that it'll be something and then patch it. I think he was just more simply saying we'll let you know what it is. Right. Yeah, we're not going to patch it. And he might come out and say, it runs at 45 to 60, depending on the performance mode. And, we're not going to patch anything major. And then you'll know.
When your character gets waist high in the floor, then it dips a little bit. When you're stuck in the geometry, it gets a little higher.
When you stand on a rock and you get sent across the universe, your frame rate gets a little slow.
I mean, it's one of those two. If nobody is able to ask them as well before launch, we'll see. Because again, it felt like it was sort of one of those. We're not. In other words, we're not gonna mislead you. He admitted with the marketing, they didn't. I don't know if they knew it was coming, but they really misled people until the very last minute. And I think he was really just saying we're not gonna make that mistake with Starfield. But let's you said it before, Brian. Is it gonna run well? No. Bethesda's history.
It'd be surprising.
We already know.
It would be
a nice surprise.
Great surprise.
Yeah.
It'd be huge.
That being said, I'm definitely playing it because I really like their style of game.
If it ran at a really strong 60 on Xbox Series X, I mean, that would be a huge success story. I just am not expecting that, but
yeah, I'll probably play it on PC.
Exactly.
Might be worse on PC, Brian.
Yeah, what if it's a bad PC port?
This year has not been kind to PC ports, man. It has not been kind.
Man, there was that really brief period where it's like, get everything on PC. It always runs great. PC ports are amazing. And now we're like, you might be able to play the full game all the way through, but I'm not guaranteeing
I
it.
heard one developer kind of mention that there's when you build a game specifically for, what is that smart? Is it like the fast access in the PlayStation 5 where it could access the internal storage really fast?
Oh, yeah.
And when you port a game that has that, like, that's built around that over to PC, it's hard to get it right. This was one developer.
Yeah,
he was kind of like alluding to it,
That is
not
very
saying
interesting.
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what's interesting is Forspoken had killed that. That's why it had the really super fast load times, like surprisingly. But yeah, it's the direct. I forget the exact term. Yeah, it's direct access to your solid state, NVMe memory, and the whole like thing that they have built for that. And but yeah, it's incredible when it works. But you're saying you heard that it was kind of hard when you're porting between console and
Yeah,
PC
if you
for
built
that.
your game with that in mind, and then you're porting it over to PC, where that's, I think there's an equivalent technology, but it doesn't, it's not a PlayStation.
Oh yeah, maybe it's different on the console than it is. Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is like Windows Direct, whatever it's called, Direct Access, whatever. But it is incredible. I mean, are you saying that they were talking about it as it relates to Starfield, or
no, to recent PlayStation ports that have come to the PC and been a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, it's just called Direct Storage. So I don't know what it is on PlayStation, but
I mean, it's obviously if you're creating a game for a console, you're dealing with one thing. Everyone has the exact same PS5, but when you're doing PCs, you're dealing with, at this point, millions of configurations, because some people are still on 1080s, and then you got people on 4090s, and that's just the GPU.
And Digital Foundry's always harping about like pre-caching shaders. It's so easy to do on a PlayStation or an Xbox because you only have to do it once and everybody gets the benefit. But every PC has to have it done because every PC hardware is different. So you can do it
why.
You can do it before, like you can make everybody who buys this game wait before you start the game and try and do this process.
Oh yeah, because your configuration
and
settings never change.
Right. Or you could try and do it on the fly. There's all sorts of things you could do. You don't want to make people wait 40 minutes after the game is installed to play the game,
Yeah, it's not an excuse for, games launching in a really bad state, but I do get that it is difficult. I totally understand why it is difficult and why even like right now maybe it's more difficult because the amount of hardware that's out there, the different configurations that can.
But in the PlayStation 4, everything looked great. Now we got the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. It's a little tougher.
Yeah. Well, like therein lies the problem, though. If you aren't, we've almost lost, I think, the concept of ports, because what used to happen is very commonly, right? It was just developed on like PlayStation, and we would know if it was an Xbox port. Now it's gotten a lot blurrier on that front of like, well, it's from the consoles. But very rarely is it developed on the PC and ported to console. And so what you have happening is everything needs to launch at once these days. That's the real issue. And compromises are being made. And Star Wars Jedi is like the perfect example. Like, that game should not be out on PC. It was a port. If you didn't develop it on the PC, you need to get your crap together, and it should come out like 3 or 4 months from now. Yeah, I know some people don't have any problems in that game, but as you can tell, I'm really upset. I'm like... It has that traversal hitching that everybody's talking about. Load stuttering of like, I'm just trying to fight and move across the world. And it's like, just freezes like for a second, and it's crazy. I can't believe it. and to what set me off is that Watts is right. Of course it's hard. I'm sympathetic to that. But why is the game out yet? I'd rather wait.
Right.
Now that they're charging like an extra $10 for games too, it's extra. Right? That's like, I kind of forgot that until I paid $70 for a Switch game. I was like,
yeah. You remember how this started? It was like PS5 was like $70, and we're like, wow, PlayStation doing $75, and then it was like PC games that are from PlayStation are $70, and then Xbox was like $70, and now it's just $70. So
Yep.
it does make people have a higher standard or expect a little bit more because they're paying more money. So I get it.
Yep.
Should
But
we
yeah,
wrap this one up?
games did used to come out on console, and then like a year later or 6 months later, they'd come out on PC. But that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Gotta hit those marketing tent
So I'll probably
poles.
just buy everything on PlayStation 5. I'll probably just do that.
It has been consistent at least.
It is consistent.
It does seem
Watts
to be
is
like
always
the
coming
lead
into my
up.
chat, just like, I got it on PlayStation 5, it's fine. And I'm always like, I know it was gonna be fine, Watts. I'm like, I still had to try the PC. I am that victim. I will continue to be.
I mean, I'd love to. I made a new PC that's like a banging PC. I'd love to play everything on it, but now it's just incredibly risky every time.
Yeah. That's what's sad, is losing that confidence in something you spent thousands of dollars on.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy, right? You're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm a PlayStation 5, which I spent $400 or $500 on, and like, it's crazy. We spent all this money on PC, and like the audience turns it into, well, it's PC, you should know better. I'm like, goes back to what I said. No, these games, yes, there's a lot of configurations, but especially when you get into relatively modern high end, that stuff needs to be cleaned up and ported properly before it's ever released, because we see that when it's cleaned up later, of course it can be done. It's not like it doesn't get fixed ever. That's what really should piss you off, is that in most cases it is fixed. It might take 3 to 6 months, but there you go. That's when it should have released.
The smartest gamer in the world is buying games when they're a year old, right? It's like all the patches.
Yeah,
you're not
totally.
wrong.
Half price
You're
for
right.
them.
You're right.
It's just like, yeah, whatever. I only listen to podcasts that are a year old, so they can be excited about all the stuff I'm about to play.
Right. Yeah, it's like you're trying to play games on
why
launch
we have
day.
the Spotify feed set up
That's
like
right.
that for you gamers that are waiting.
Yeah.
Spotify feed has your back. All right, guys. What do you think? Should we wrap this one up?
Yeah, that was good stuff.
All right. I'm really excited to play more Tears of the Kingdom. We got Diablo 4 coming. We got the Destiny
it's coming
DLC
so
coming.
soon.
Right. We got Street Fighter 6 coming. I feel like I'm missing something. Isn't there something else big happening like real soon?
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy. When's that coming out?
Final Fantasy 16, June.
July. Oh, is it June?
There's not. What is going
You're right.
on?
It's like a couple weeks after.
June 22nd, maybe.
It's summer. Don't people know it's summer?
It's the summer of Briar.
You were told not to release games in the summer. People go
June
outside.
22nd.
So, what are you doing?
Nah, stay out of the sun. You know,
You don't need none of
That's
that.
true. It's bad for you.
they're trying to
good.
keep you
Fuck
inside,
vitamin D.
staring at an LED
Just
screen.
take a
Much more healthy.
vitamin.
All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.